Hello and welcome to Week 4 post-game show for the Giants-Cowboys game. I'm your host, Jason Kent. This is Cowboys Takeover Podcast. And with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how you feeling today, sir?
Hey, wise counsel. Feeling pretty good. Pretty eventful weekend in the NFC East. So it's always nice when you just kind of lay back and enjoy soccer, knowing your team has already taken care of business for the week.
Yeah, who would have thought, though, after the fourth week of the season, your Washington Commanders would be the NFC East front runners? Feels like a lot of people just want to put the money on them now to win this division. Everything I've seen, rightfully so. You know, it's that Dan Quinn move looks good by them.
It does.
They got, I wanted Bobby Wagner. They signed Bobby Wagner. You got Dan Quinn. They bring in, some Dallas guys, and Dan Quinn has that team looking really good. There was a weird stat I'd heard that this was the first time since week 1 that the Commanders punted the football. So,
wow.
Yeah, they've been running very well. And like you said, the Cowboys took care of business going into this weekend. We wanted to push the show because we wanted to kind of see how the rest of the NFC East did, kind of with Washington and the Eagles going later. And I really want to break down, I do want to talk about this Giants game, though, because when I watched it, I think you and I were both very upset in that first half. That was a game, I think when you look at fully, I think it really shows Dallas's issues. Because going into the game, Dallas is a 5.5-point favorite. And it's crazy because they won by 5. Vegas knows. Yep. But when you look at that offensive line, I know we had talked about how good they've looked in the past, but Guyton really looked like a dude that was lost in that game. A lot of holding penalties, got beat really bad. Thibodeau really made him look bad. And you did discuss, we were able to take care of, Lawrence, what wasn't that big of an impact. And Brian Burns. But when you look at it, Thibodeau really destroyed Guyton. I think that's an issue for later. But I just think I was very discouraged of what I saw. Yes, Dak was very efficient, but this is a game that we should have put away very early. This game, it should have been put away. Dallas is just settling. They're hitting really punts. They're punting too much. They did score early, and they really were up, but if they weren't putting it away. The defense didn't show up. When you look at this game, what can you take away as the positives for this game outside of, yes, we beat the Giants? What do you look at? What are you hanging your hat on that can really, propel us in the upcoming weeks, where we've already discussed is a pretty tough upcoming schedule?
Yeah. Well, I think it really comes down to, our defense bent, but it didn't break. We are pretty deep into our DBs and our depth chart and really thinning out right there. Mozzie had his best game. Dak was, man, I texted you, Dak was throwing dimes. He was as accurate as you can be, pocket passer. But I feel like another week goes by where he is showcasing that he's a pocket passer, but he's not looking to extend plays like he used to. And I'm really not sure how to take that. I think part of it is knowing that you have, a rookie left tackle. To your point, Guyton keeps getting beat with the inside leverage move. They're doing these spins, and it's all inside where he's getting beat. So hopefully, he's seeing this tape and making those adjustments. That's the worst side you want to be beat as a left tackle. So, hopefully they fix that. And if I'm hanging my hat on something else, I guess it's CD hitting stride. Now he only had, I think, 8 catches or so, but he really kind of seemed to get away with whatever he wanted in that game. But on the downside to that, I just feel like it was another kind of vanilla play calling offense, and McCarthy just not showing any creativity to get this offense going, making it easier for Dak.
I agree. And you're still missing the real big play. The running game was back at it, but it was again. When I'm looking at this game, Rico is averaging 4.2 yards a carry, only gets 11 carries. It didn't look impressive. I've really been impressed because I think he's making a lot of, I don't want to say huge plays, but a guy that's Hunter Lupke. He's a dude the last couple of weeks has made some big catches. But I was disappointed too because when, like you said, CD kind of did what he wanted. After the game, I think it was Friday, it came out that Diggs is talking about how he's the only guy who true follows the number one receiver. Well, you can't say that after the number one receiver had 13 catches for 115 yards. Like you can't. Look, I don't care if you did. We all saw you weren't guarding him the whole game. First of all, second of all, he still had 13 catches for 115 yards. So even if you were following him, you did a poor job. That's the problem with Diggs is he's always going to be a guy. He's a big play dude. That game, and it's tough to say because when you watch it, man, that was a game there for the having for the Giants. There's a couple plays here and there. Wan'Dale Robinson destroyed. Like I felt like he had 11 catches, 71 yards. And again, Neighbors had 12 for 115, so it wasn't a lot of big plays. But you're sitting here and you're like, man, Dallas, what are we doing? And this isn't even because it's been year after year. They're killing you. The little dumps and chases. They had so many just quick out, get the ball out of the quarterback hand, and let those guys just make plays. And I think Neighbors had the one big catch, or I think mid-game. But outside of that, it was just a lot of – and the defense never adjusted. And then we're not really – go ahead.
Well, I didn't want to forget the point with Diggs and Neighbors. Diggs did give up. I think it was like a 4th and 2, 4th and 3 to Neighbors that beat him on an inside route. And to me, like that doesn't happen with a Jalen Ramsey, who's physical at the line. That's not part of Trayvon's game. His game is finesse. It's keeping up with the route running, but he's not going to over physical a guy at the line of scrimmage, and he's not going to, win those first 3-4 yard battles. He's a soft coverage kind of guy, route running.
Yeah, and he's always like, and that's when you look at him. I got in this debate with somebody because I love Diggs. What he did for us a couple years ago is good. But he's not a true shutdown corner. Like you get 11 interceptions and 6, or I think it was 11 or 12. I think a lot of touchdowns that year. You're going to get all pro. Let's not forget it gave up 1,000 yards receiving. So you can talk all this talk. You're not one of the premier cornerbacks in the league. And we've seen it. And yes, you make big plays. Getting Carson back, hopefully. Not Carson, Bland back eventually will help. But I think when you look at it too, man, I think we had two big injuries on a team that's really struggling to score points. The offense doesn't look in sync, and there's a lot of penalties. It's going to be a long season, and we always said this is a team that plays from the front. They need to be able to rush the passer, and now you just lost not just Micah, but Micah and Tank. And Tank's injury is going to be, they're saying, a little bit longer. Liz Frank injury, so they think he's going to go on the injured, whatever it's called these days, injured reserve.
Yeah.
They're saying Micah could miss 2 or 3 weeks. I think we have a bye week in 3 weeks. So they said as of right now, definitely the first 2, maybe back after the bye. But especially with Micah, because he wasn't playing great, how big of hits are both of these to this team?
Well, they're definitely the strength of the D line. But you know what? Neither have really done very much so far this year to show that they kind of still have the dog in them that they had last year, at least for most of the season. Unfortunately, and you've heard me say over and over when we talked about who's going to get paid, where are we going to rank our paid employees between Dak, CD, and Micah. I've always had Micah at the end.
You did.
And I think now we're saying he's not a TJ Watt, he's not a Miles Garrett.
Whoa. You stop the blasphemy, dude. When you look at his career, the dude is a guy that has been second in the defensive player in the league all 3 years has been in the NFL. His sacks have done nothing but increase since he's come to the NFL. So I won't tolerate Micah Parsons slander on this show. Okay, that's first off. We're not tolerating the slanders Parsons. He is a phenomenal player, and he's shown that he could be a disruptor. When you look at him, he gets doubled and triple teamed more than anybody in the NFL. And that's proven. Like they've shown that. And he's got last year, there's how many summaries have we shown, shown out? NFL, Dallas, and Mike are showing where he does get held a lot. There's no
he
call.
Does no calls against
Mike. So I don't want to sit here and say that, I don't want to try to boast like he doesn't get any calls, but a lot comes out. And so he's definitely a premier pass rusher in this game. And I think he's definitely up there with the Watts and the Bosa's. And he's going to show it. And it's sad. I don't think he got off to a great start, but I don't think this defense did. I think it's a whole defensive fundamental issue because the defense hasn't looked great as a whole at all. No run defense outside of that Cleveland game, who they were missing their left and right tackle. This defense does not look good. They have how many sacks since that first week? 3.
The defense does deserve their flowers for this game. 1.1 yards a carry allowed. Okay, that's improvement. Okay, I get it. It's against the Giants, but they have an improved offensive line. Their offensive line is better than last year. And coming into this game, I think they were close to 4.5 yards per carry. Call it what you want, but it's the NFL. I think they showed improvement. Overshown looked amazing. He had actually a very clutch tackle. I think in the third quarter, around 9 minutes left.
Yes, on Neighbors.
Third down on was it Neighbors? I don't know if it was Neighbors.
I think it was. It was Neighbors,
but it was
that little out route or the cut and then go out.
Yeah, it was a
beautiful tackle,
crucial tackle. If he misses that, we're probably talking about something different because they settled for 3 inside the 10, 3 points inside the 10 at that juncture. So, but I mean, back to Micah, I really need more convincing of his performance in the same manner that you've been questioning and challenging Dak. There has to be it. If you're talking about a TJ Watt, a Myles Garrett, those guys alone are the reason their teams get 1 minimum, maybe 3 victories a season, because they blatantly dominated. They caused for turnovers, sacks, crucial game, situational performances and making a difference and an impact. And I haven't really seen Micah come out and do that except with the exception of those rookie tackles against Cleveland. I mean, I get it. He gets chipped. I get it. He gets double teamed and held, but those other guys do too.
Micah Parsons is second in the NFL in their first 3 years for sacks. Okay. I'm sorry, not second. He's 5th in the history of the game. So when you're telling me you need to see more, how much more do you need to see, bud? In the history of the game, their first 3 years. You want to hear the names of this dude at first? Mark Gastineau. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that dude at one point the NFL sack leader for single season? Reggie White, who we all know who Reggie White is. Derek Thomas. Everyone that knows the game. I think he has 7 sacks in a game. That's a good guy. That's a good stat. And people that aren't going to know, people should know. This was the dude in Alden Smith, who people aren't going to remember the name, but was a stud until he had his issues. He was even in Dallas. He had a pretty solid year in Dallas. But when he came up with San Fran, the dude was projected. Then right after him, we have the Dwight Freeneys, the Sean Merrimans, the Richard Dents, the J.J. Watts, the Javon Curses. So I don't know what more you want to see because he's been a dominant player. Because when I look at it, when I see a player like Dak, a quarterback who's supposed to affect the game, there's a big difference between the effect that your quarterback needs to have in a defensive tackle. Mike has shown up. I just think in the big moments, Dak's not shown up. And last week, listen, you're right. Let's give the defense flowers and the rushing yards. But it's a different week coming up, When I look at the last 2 weeks, we played Tennessee, we played New Orleans. dominated. We get the New York Giants, who we should have really destroyed. The Washington Commanders, scored more points than we did against them. They looked better driving a game more better than we did. So when you're looking at it, I don't know. I'm very discouraged after this game. I can take a little bit of encouragement, I guess, out of the rush defense, but it really, when I look at it being the Giants and knowing we lost Micah and Lawrence for the next minimum few weeks, I'm disappointed because, and I even went to work, and my buddy at work's a Giants fan, and he's like, "Listen, you can't be happy about the win. Like, I know you won, but you can't be happy." And that's how I feel. Like, that game, really, that win showed me more about who this team is, and they don't really have an identity. And losing Biotish and Smith are much bigger issues than we really thought they would be. And I think at some point, do you think maybe kicking Smith out, the left tackle, may have to happen for a little bit?
I'm not there yet with the left tackle, but that is a good thought, and I think a possibility. And if Guyton can show that he can play that left guard position, I think it's something they should seriously consider, because Smith is just a beast anywhere we need him. And I'm not so discouraged about the performance of this particular game, because I think this really feels like a wonky year in the NFL. You look week after week, you see the 49ers are at 2-2. You see the Eagles are at 2-2. The Ravens had a claw back to get 2-2. You see the Vikings are on 4-0. Seahawks are playing tonight. They're trying to stay undefeated. But you just see these ebbs and flows of this season all around the league. And it's going to be, we're still in September football. It's hard to win in the game as it is. I think it's an overreaction to think that we, because we only won by 5, and we historically have won by combined 70 points or whatever, that is, the Giants are a little bit better. I think it's another positive takeaway that we didn't let Big Dex and Brian Burns ruin the game. I'm still shocked that I don't think either of them recorded a sack. I think Burns had a tackle for loss. But I'm not looking into. I'm just happy to grind out a win against a division opponent. I'm not so discouraged as most fans are by the fact that it was only a 5-point win. But albeit, it was a pretty boring game to watch.
I agree a little bit. I was very disappointed. So, do you think this changes your opinion on the division? Like, when you look at Dallas, when you look at the division as a whole, I think you have to right now seriously consider Washington as a legitimate contender. When you look at the way they've played, and you look at the way after, this is week 4. That's a quarter of the season's over. Really, when you look at it, you say NFL, when you say other sports, you want 30, 40 games. A quarter of your season's over. I think we know what Dallas is, and I think at this point, it's fair. I think I'm discouraged a little bit because Washington looks much better than we expected. Eagles look worse. They've been missing some players too, so they're going to look bad. Dallas is 2-2, but when you look at the upcoming schedule, man, it gets tough. Coming this week, we have Pittsburgh. You get Pittsburgh Lions. Niners aren't playing well, but you have to go to San Fran, Falcons, and then Eagles. So the upcoming schedule is not a cakewalk by any means. So if you're going to take if you want to put a positive spin, we beat the team so far we're supposed to beat. New Orleans would have been nice, but we're 2-2 after 4 weeks. I don't think I would have liked it. I didn't think it would be this bad. You got the win, but I don't know, man. I don't know where we finish. I'm just it's after because it's 4 weeks. I didn't even think a quarter of the season's already over.
Well, the Steelers will get into, but they are coming off of a loss against Indianapolis. I think we're more talented than the Colts.
I don't know.
But to your point, we are not favored to win any of our next 3 or 4 games. I think ESPN Analytics had us like at between 40 to 48% over those games. Like, for example, I think the Steelers had a 55% chance of winning as of, I think, Saturday or so. But these are going to be, really tough games. I think the next 3 or 4 games
Very
stretch.
good running backs too. A lot. All of these teams that are coming up are teams that will run the ball.
And you remember the team we had. Now it's a different team, but you remember the season where we had Romo, DeMarco Murray, and we were undefeated on the road.
Yes.
But we played terrible at home.
Okay. I don't know.
I think there might be something to where we perform a little bit better this season on the road than in years past. And we might be sacrificing some of that home game performance than in years past. Sometimes you get those wonky seasons where you're just better on the road. I'm starting to kind of sense that a little bit.
It could be, especially with a lot of pressure, how well they did last year, and then losing. Listen, I don't know. That something needs to click because we talked about it. I think you especially living here now and living here in Philadelphia, you hear the Eagles talking about Sirianni wanting him gone. When you look at Dallas throughout the years, when I just go back to Sean Payton, I remember their last big time decision. I don't really think anybody wanted either Dan Quinn or the offensive coordinator that's on the Eagles now. But when you look at it, they're keeping McCarthy when he should have been let go, I think, multiple times. And you remember Sean Payton should have taken over back when Jason Garrett was there. So it just doesn't seem there's an issue with Jerry Jones of getting rid of a coach. And a lot of people think still Dak and McCarthy may be attached. But listen, I think after that performance, he should let go. When you said if they lost, I think after that performance, something needs to happen. There has to be major changes for this team because they're just not playing. And I don't know what it is, but listen, we're 2-2 coming out of the quarter of the season, 500 team, 1 game out of first place for the division. But on the good news, the positive note, we are 1-0 in division play. So I guess you could take a positive out of that. But we'll be back Thursday evening for the preview with Pittsburgh. You don't know. Russ looks like he's kind of going. Fields, you don't know what he's going to be. So it could, hopefully there's, by the preview show, it'll be a little bit more out there who's going to be starting a quarterback for that team. But it's going to be another tough matchup, that Dallas needs to come out and start early. But we'll get into that Thursday night. So thank everybody that came out and checked us out today, whether you're watching on the Twitter, on either of the YouTube pages, Cowboys Takeover Podcast YouTube page, Ring the Bell Network YouTube page, or if you're on the Instagram or Twitter, just give a like, give a subscribe, follow for notifications. Again, we really appreciate each and every one of you for checking us out. But hey, we're 2-2. What do you have for closing words over here, Aaron? What are your final thoughts? Give us some positivity because you're the positive one in the group outside. I'm definitely not.
So Dak and CD are coming into form, and we're coming off an extended 10-day rest.
Dub. I'm feeling it now. Yeah, you're right. Dak and CD are starting to get that groove. I think that could be the positive. CD getting that game could be real big for him. So, listen, we need a big week. We'll be back Thursday to preview the Pittsburgh game in Pittsburgh. So hopefully Aaron's right with his little analysis that we're going to be a better road team this year. Let's go 7-0, 8-0. I don't know how many road games we have this year. That's a big game coming up. So we'll see you guys Thursday for checking us out. If you like, subscribe, hit that notification button. You will know when we come live on Thursday for the preview show. Thank you, everyone. Let's go Cowboys. Love you. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Stay safe. Stay dry. Have fun.